Great. Okay, so let's proceed. So I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:04. This is the meeting of the Open Space Committee meeting. Do we have any public comments? Let's see, at this point, Chris, you're a public member. Do you have any public comments at this point? No.
No.
Please proceed. Okay, great. Minutes for the last meeting. I can share screen and review minutes at this point. Let's see here.
Wait, I thought we just said Chris was a member of the open space.
So at this point, Chris and Rini talked about which person would be the member representing planning board, and at this point it's Rini. So it's
not planning board, select board.
I'm so sorry, select board.
Yeah.
So it's
I'm just here as a guest.
Okay, let me change that.
okay, great. So these are the minutes from the last meeting, which is November 12th. Has everyone had a chance to look at those? They went out a couple of different times.
Mm-hmm.
I have, yes. And I have no comments. I would move to accept them as they stand if no one else has any comments.
Do I hear a second on the movement?
I'll second that. April West.
Oh, yay, April's here, great, okay. And do I hear any discussion? Hearing no discussion, do I hear, shall we accept these as presented by the person who scribed them, and that was Diana? All in favor? I need to have a verbal approval of these. That's required on Zoom.
Okay.
So please say your last name and say approved, if or not.
McDonald approved.
West, yes.
Roden, yeah, aye.
Mac, yes.
Palmer, yes. Fetterman?
Do I have to approve them when I wrote them? Okay, Fetterman, yes.
Unanimously approved. Okay, great. Welcome, April. Thank you. Okay, moving on. The next thing is committee reports. Now, I'm just going to interject here at this point that I asked Barry Sherrill to attend this meeting, and I suggested he come at 6:30. So I think we can proceed with committee reports to the extent that possible between now and 6:30. I'm all in favor of total efficiency on meetings. You know, I hate to tell you, but I hate meetings, especially hate Zoom meetings, but I love you guys. I absolutely can't even tell you how much I enjoy this whole committee. Open Space Committee is an important committee, and I'm seeing more and more the value that we bring to this community. But I hate meetings. Moving on, let's see, who else just joined us? Nope, nobody else joined us. Okay, so who would wish to give a report first? I didn't have an order specifically in mind. Let's start with Select Board. Do we have any reports specific regarding open space?
Well, two things. One is, the Riggs property came in front of the select board and that was approved.
Which Riggs?
Riggs property, right. So that came in front of us, not this week, but the week before. That was a conservation restriction.
Okay.
And the other thing is in the mail today, we just got the copy of the Open Space Review Committee. The Open Space and Recreation Plan. And we got a copy of the draft back and it's been submitted to the state for approval.
Yay.
That's great news.
Cindy, anything else relative to open space?
Yeah, relative to the Open Space Review Recreation Plan, OSRP, always confused by those letters, aren't we? I just moments ago checked our website for our town. I did not see that posted on the town website. And Ed and I communicated a little bit in the last couple of hours. And we need to see that posted on the town website to allow for public comments.
Mhm.
And I haven't yet seen it. If I missed it, I'm sorry. And I did download, I think Ed gave me the current draft that was provided by the PVPC consultant. That's Ken Comia. And so we need very much to see that posted on the town website. I know, he'll probably get to that. But
Cindy, Ed's not the one posting it. It goes off to this person who's doing our website stuff. So he's passed it on to her. I was there at town hall today, and I know he sent it to her to post it.
who is the mystery person? What is that person's
Ann
name?
Campbell, I believe. She does the library work, the library website.
Say the name again. Ann
Ann Campbell.
Campbell.
And she's on call for us for just a few hours a month to do posting, I think. So she's the one that does all this stuff as far as I know.
Wonderful. So the fact that we've got this draft, that's really important. I can't even, tell you how important this is that we've got this get this far, is posted, and that's wonderful. But we need to get the opportunity for public comments, and the fact that it's posted by Ian Campbell is wonderful news. And I'm looking forward to seeing that on the town website. So that's really, really good. Okay. And then the Riggs came to the select board meeting. I attended that select board meeting a few meetings ago. And of significance to me, and maybe the rest of you who were able to attend the select board meeting, was the time involved for developing these conservation restrictions. That's really, really critical. There's a lot involved. And when I go on to my report of lands that I've been involved with and landowners, I'm going to tell you that's just amazing that there's so much involved with the conservation restriction and the timing involved.
I think it was at least 2 to 3 years ago that he first came to conservation.
Yeah. Well, it was a couple of years ago. Yeah, you're right. Thanks, Rini. Thanks very much for that. We need to talk about that again. Great. So that's select board report. Who's next? Who would like to report on April? Can you talk about
Assessors, nothing came up at the last assessor meeting that has to do with open space.
Thanks, April.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk in a minute about how valuable April is to have us on this committee regarding some of the other contacts that I've made. It's tremendously helpful. Okay, who's next? Let's see here. Paula, do you have anything from Parks?
No, we really didn't. We had a very quick, short meeting, and most of it was involving Labrie Field and our process going on there. So we really didn't get into anything with open space.
Okay, thank you. Let's see here. Charlie, do you want to talk about Conservation Commission?
Okay, I will. They had quite a long meeting. It was they cover an awful lot of territory. They do a tremendous amount of work, and they had 3 NOIs. As far as issues associated with open space, they reviewed the RTP grant project and the fact that it was
Which grant? I'm sorry, which grant?
It's the Manhattan Meadows Sanctuary RTP grant project. They reviewed it.
Yeah.
There,
RTP is,
I'm reading it off the notes of the meeting. They refer to it as a RTP grant project, and I'm not sure what the recreational.
Recreational Trails Program. I think that's the federal entity that gives all the money for this. So that's what Marla always calls it, but I think we can just call it Mass Trails. That's the state.
Mass Trails. Okay, cool. Okay. Basically, they're at a stage where it's been approved. I think that's already mentioned at this meeting. And in addition, they're going to have to put out bids. There was some discussion about removing the wood trails that they have right now, those platforms, and they discuss their pressure treated lumber, and extracting them. And I think it's quite a job, heavy, and they have to be sawed and that kind of stuff. And it's not an easy project from that regard. And so they're going to start, I guess, in the spring, but at least they're putting out bids. I don't know how long it will take for those bids to come in and for them to make a decision. But that's moving along. And as far as Zipter is concerned, as I understand it, and this is from a previous meeting, they're going to move the signs and expand the parking there. I believe that's the case. So beyond that, I don't have too much to add to what their activities have been.
That's great. Thanks, Charlie. Diana, I know you are also involved specifically related to the Mass Trails grant and have done a lot of work. Do you want to expand on any of that that Charlie reported?
Yeah, well, I know that Open Space had discussed helping out volunteering, and I guess the first thing, the place for volunteers is getting those old slippery boardwalks out of there, and Charlie's right, they are like really cumbersome and spiked and arsenic ridden and all. So now I think the latest thing I heard was wait until the new stairs go in down from East Street, and that might make it easier to carry them out. So I'm not sure. I've heard different, like some people said they're gung-ho, they'd go ahead and start doing it, but the highway department, I think, did agree to haul them off if we get them out of there. I mean, this is just a way of saving some of the money in the grant by doing that volunteer work, saving money for other things, but I think we might be waiting until spring, until the new stairs are built to start hauling them out. So then I might call for volunteers. And today, as Chris knows, Ed is really busy on another grant right now, but I did send to Ed the names of 4 companies. I don't quite understand the whole bidding thing, but I think we say give them some names of companies that we would like him to ask for bids. So after some research, including from Garrett Stover, who got back to me with some very good suggestions, I gave Ed 4 names of companies to reach out to. So I hope that can happen soon, because they need to go look at the whole thing before the snow flies to have an idea what they might bid. That's where it's going. And in the meantime, we're in the process of writing the other grant for phase 2 of that Manham project for the big bridge and the other side. That's due February 1st.
Is this part of the same Mass Trails grant?
Well,
phase 2?
Yeah, phase 2 from a separate grant. You know, we have to get approved for it and everything, but we didn't put that big bridge in the first grant, and we didn't get as much in the first grant as we wanted. So more or less, we have to ask for the same amount again.
And I can't even begin to tell you my respect for both of you, for all of the CONCOM, and also Diana for the tremendous work you've done. Diana, you let me know recently that you got some new money from, I mean, I know you've gotten different kind of grant money to support all of this project you've done. What was that recent one you told me that you got a couple $1,000?
Recently, in the last couple months, we got $2,000 from Walmart Foundation and $2,500 from Easthampton Savings Bank for, we think, probably just for the kiosk on the East Street, a big kiosk there with a map and everything, but they gave us money for that. So yeah, that wasn't too difficult, to tell you the truth. It was like a one-page thing.
I need to express, put it in the minutes, I need to express how important it is that we have these people that are, sort of creative and willing to go forward and ask for this kind of money. The money is out there. It takes a little bit of request, right, Diana, that you got to put it in writing and say, we need it. But the fact that you've done this, working with the highway department, working with the Concom, working with all the potentials for getting the monies is really, really important. Yes, we're going into the winter months, and that's important to recognize, but saving Manhan Meadows and moving forward on this is essentially totally critical on this. And I'm going to interject at this point that while we don't currently see anybody from Friends of Open Space, I think we're able to identify that there's a commitment on that part to bring in volunteers to help with the parts that you need. We've seen that with some, whether it's removing some of this, these woods, these boards that are, really arsenic infused or whatever they are. We need to get those out of there. We need to do the right thing going forward. I commend anybody related to Conservation Commission and everybody at this point. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there are a lot of, like you said, a lot of hardworking, talented people out there.
Absolutely. And we are in New England. New England means 5 seasons, mud season being one of them. We have to deal with that. So thanks very much. So moving on, April, do you have anything specifically from assessors at this point? Hi.
I already said.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
I said I already said that there was nothing that came up in our last meeting.
Okay. I'm going to mention our dear friend April in a few minutes because she's been immensely helpful on another issue that's come up. Let's see here. You already spoke, Paula, right?
Yes.
Okay, and planning board, I can tell you, planning board has been consumed by two things that are really related to open space. One is that we're dealing with the approval of an update of our bylaws regarding our stormwater drainage. And we're moving in the direction of probably a public hearing within the next several weeks about the upgrade of our bylaw. We've been working with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission consultants, specifically Patty Gambarini. She's phenomenal, related to wetlands and water management and protection of our water sources. And we have a draft of the bylaw that's moving forward, and I think you're going to see a posting of our public hearing. The second thing we've been working on relates and connects with Conservation Commission, and that's specific to a particular property on High Street that had filed may need help from somebody on this, filed on a notice of disturbance of their land that was purchased on High Street, and moving over the course of many, many months, years, hasn't completely complied with that in terms of stormwater drainage. And I think it's important to recognize that has resulted in some unfortunate drainage into our public road, which is High Street, and neighboring properties of this particular property, and has been put on notice and is actually on a cease and desist order at this point from the Conservation Commission, working closely with the Highway Commission, working with the Highway Department, with the Conservation Commission, the Planning Board, et cetera. This is a property on the sort of upper end of High Street. Janet, off the top of your head, do you remember the address on that? Do you remember where that is?
I think it's 32.
32 High Street, great.
Yeah.
In terms of open space, we need to always recognize the importance of working with all the town's committees to comply with guidelines provided by the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board and the Highway Commission and the Highway Department regarding drainage, et cetera. This this particular situation is ongoing and problematic because we're approaching the winter months. So that is my report on that from the planning board. That a planning board is going to be holding a continuation of the public hearing on that, I think at the next planning board meeting, which I think is next Wednesday. That's my
public hearing to do what? What is the?
To hear their report on their plan specific to stormwater drainage. Originally, they said they did not exceed the number of acreage, the numbers of square feet that would require a specific plan, and then they exceeded it. They cleared more lands than was required. That's what happened.
I think it's also important to mention that the Concom is waiting for the state approval of the new wetlands bylaw, because that would involve, that includes fines that could be applied in this situation, right?
Yep. And the follow-up to that, if I can interject, is that the select board has got to approve the amount of the fine that has been suggested, requested by Concom.
Mm-hmm. What was that?
I believe it was $300 a day.
Yay. Okay.
And I think at a broader sense, we value the importance of maintaining the protection of our lands, the protection of our wetlands, and that's really, really critical. And this is an example of that. We don't just like let it go under the rug, these kinds of circumstances.
Well, I think that it's really important to point out that if we hadn't approved that wetlands law at town meeting, it would have been more of the same. There would have been no enforcement tool, there would have just been broken promises. So I think that's the key.
And also the voters of this town voted highly on preserving open space and protecting our water supply.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. CPC, any report from CPC, Janet? Janet, you're muted. You have to take yourself on mute, please.
Oh, it's not only the damage that he did to High Street, it's the damage that he did to Mr. Kent's property across the street. If anyone's interested in just driving up High Street after the two horrible rainstorms that we had, it's very unfortunate, the damage, because Mr. Kent's property was just beautiful. He had it all landscaped, all the grass was in and everything, and now it's just covered with rocks and dirt and mud, and it's a sad situation for him. Anyway, on community preservation, I noticed in the minutes it said we probably wouldn't meet in December, and we did not meet in December. We're looking forward to people coming forward with proposals. And if anybody has any ideas or anything, I do know the Council on Aging is going to publish something in their next issue, their wonderful newsletter that they do. And we're just looking forward to projects. That's it.
Janet, to add to that, I'll speak a little bit about Friends of Southampton Open Space. Mia Kurahara, am I saying the right name? Kurahara. She and actually Diana and I walked on Clearwater Woodlands a couple of weeks ago, and she and I have been in contact in the last couple of days regarding the potential for putting forth a CPC request for funding to add to do something at Clearwater Woodlands. I proposed to her that she contact Marla to get a little guidelines on what they might put forth, whether it was signage, bridge design, trail design, etc. Work in concert with the Conservation Commission, and I haven't heard anything in the last 48 hours on that, but they're meeting concurrent to this. A little bit later in this meeting, I want to talk about changing our meeting dates, because we are really absolutely the same time as Friends of Southampton Open Space. And I think we need to, have a different meeting night. But she's going to be talking with Friends of Southampton Open Space about putting forth a application for CPC funds for working on that. So that is one thing that's going to go before CPC as well. And hopefully they'll meet in January and talk about that and get on the agenda or on the warrant for the next public meeting, or the next, town meeting that we're going to have, special town meeting. So that's great. Okay. Anybody else? Let's see, who's next? I already mentioned about planning board. Chris, can you make any comment about MPIC at this point?
Just to say that we're going to be wrapping up the final chapter, I guess, of the actual master plan. Ken Comia is writing up what we've learned from the survey. We had a joint meeting with planning board and select board a couple of weeks ago now, where Ken presented the results basically of the master plan community engagement survey. And he's going to be taking all of that information and sort of writing and updating that last chapter, which is kind of the action strategy chapter. And so we're expecting that. I think he told me probably within about 10 days. So that we're hoping to have a last master plan meeting probably before the end of the month, if possible. But then the idea would be that probably in January we would try to convene a few of the members of relevant boards, broader than just select board and planning board, but including Concom, housing, parks, whomever, to sort of talk about what came out as some of the priorities and kind of agree on an action plan of sorts, I think would be the idea. Tying into that, I'll just add it here because I'm also the head of the grants committee, this ad hoc grants committee, the grant search committee. And Diana has been helpful on that today too, along with Caitlin Swistak and Ed Gibson. The four of us are working on this, but we have put forth today a grant to the state it's a request for $100,000 for the Greenway acquisition. For the rail trail acquisition. It's a small town capital grant program. And, a lot of it does work with affordable housing in particular, but it does also allow for land acquisition. So since we've been waiting forever to figure out how we can have some money to buy the rail trail part of the process to get it started, we thought instead of waiting for that to pass the legislature, because there is a bill before the legislature to allow the CPC funds to be used to purchase land for the railroad acquisition. But that may take many more months. So this grant opportunity came up. So we decided to jump in and put in the first dibs on it. It's only $100,000 and the whole cost is going to be like $400,000 to buy the actual land. So this is just a first down payment, and we're going to have to follow up with other grants that are due probably in February to see if we can complete getting money to actually buy it, and then the whole process of design and engineering and all sorts of stuff can start. But we pulled it together since, Monday, Tuesday, and everybody helped put in their 5 cents worth in terms of where we could fill in the sections. And I went down to town hall and worked with Ed for about an hour today, and we got it all submitted. So,
and Paul Fergal helped.
I'm sorry, yes, and Paul, absolutely. Paul Fergal was very much, he took the lead originally on it with giving us some information that we needed, so the various reports we needed to support it and attach to the grant application. So that's that.
That's big.
Hubba.
Well, Chris, am I absolutely right that in terms of the recent public engagement survey, the number one priority was moving forward on the rail trail, the Greenway, et cetera?
Yeah. That came up the highest, and that's why we decided to kind of jump on it now, because this seems to be the time of the year. Between now, February, March, there's a lot of grants that come out, a lot of application, things that are out there that we can maybe apply for. So rather than wasting a year, we thought we'd jump on it and see if that, might get a start on it anyway.
Chris and Diana, I can't even tell you, all of you, that, we are a small town. We don't have any extra nickels kicking around that I'm aware of. Doing this to get grant money to work on this is so critical. And I really commend you both moving forward on that. I know Dan LaValle had a lot to, no, I'm wrong about that. Dan LaValle had nothing to do with the grants, right? That was tech, sorry. But nonetheless, moving forward on getting grants and asking for money is so, so important. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's really important. I'm glad Paul Fergal was involved in that. That's terrific. Let's see. In terms of reports, who have I missed? Anybody that wants to speak additionally? If not, I'm going to just tell you about a meeting that I held via phone call with Mark Walmsley. And this kind of kicks into the next section of...
Cindy, is Bear's not waiting to be let in or anything, is he?
He hasn't showed up that I've seen him. He said he's coming.
Okay.
Thanks, April. I'm watching for him. I asked him to come in for 6:30.
All right.
I'm watching. Thanks, Barry. Thanks, April, on that. But I just want to tell you one thing regarding a contact with Mark Walmsley. When we get to the point about specifically speaking on lands, I can say a little more, but Mark did add to me when I talked to him recently, and for all of you who probably don't know, nobody here doesn't know who Mark Walmsley is. He's a representative Kestrel Land Trust. He was asked by the chairman of the board, whose name is Scott Jackson. He's a professor at UMass and very involved in land conservation and also climate resiliency, et cetera, many things. He said, what's really hot in Pioneer Valley? And Mark said, Southampton. Southampton is really hot. We're working hard. And so we have moved up very high on the on sort of the priority list of Kestrel Land Trust because of the work we're doing, all of us. So I just want to add that for one thing to say that that's really, really big. Let's see here. What else? Okay. Charlie, can we move to your project at this point? Can we talk about what you proposed and what we've done subsequent to the last meeting regarding the Browns Aquifer?
Okay. As you know, I've considered or I'll introduce the idea of developing a map of the Browns Aquifer. And it would
Hi,
have...
Barry. I'm just going to say hello to Barry. Hi, Barry. We're just moving on. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Develop a map that and potentially posters that would be containing information of both where the Browns Aquifer is in Southampton and potentially showing silhouettes of where the urban development is over the Browns Aquifer in a secondary map in the same brochure. In addition, transferring quite a lot of the homeowners' recommendations that are in the Browns Aquifer website to this same document, this same map. And we proposed that, and Patty and Pioneer Valley Planning Commission liked the idea very much and recommended that we use them for the 2 or 3 days needed to develop those maps under the sponsorship of the District Local Technical Assistance Grant Program. And we said great, and we had to, however, coordinate it with both the water department, and this was recommended by the town administrator. And we had a meeting with the water department and reviewed the project, and they supported it wholeheartedly also. So, and I understand from Cindy that Ed wrote a letter and it was approved at PVPC that we get that those few days of free, relatively supported work from about the maps. And I guess we'd move on once that's completed to present it to the CPC and look for funding to implement it in terms of printing and design. I think I covered it, right, Cindy?
Just a couple clarifications. You used the term DLTA, which isn't quite correct. This is LTA. This is local technical assistance. I asked for clarification for that, and I'm saying this for the minutes, Diana, that this is a little different than DLTA. It's LTA, local technical assistance, and it's apparently available to small towns, limited amount of time, and very late today, and I connected Charlie via email earlier, like an hour ago, that showed the approval for our town to get this LTA assistance specifically regarding this project. We don't have to go through any more formal application. And this differentiates it from the DLTA, which is a considerably more formal kind of an application thing. So that's one thing to clarify. You also said water department, and it's water commissioners. We went to the, sorry, it went to the water commissioners. Charlie and I went there last week. And we spoke to these people, and it's great. And they gave a lot of background information on what they know about the Barnes Aquifer, about previous research that's been done, reports that have been done. This woman, Patty Gambarini, is totally on top of all of that. She's highly in favor, just like Charlie said, of supporting this, and that's really cool. So here's the next thing. While we have the support of Pioneer Valley Planning Commission for this LTA, what we need to do is go to the next step, as Charlie said, which is go to CPC for support on specifically the printing and the mailing. So Charlie, you and I haven't talked very much in the last week or so, but I'm opening it up to the whole committee here. Who should get the mailing? How much mailing should go out? How should we be advertising this tremendous project that's going to be so informative to all of our town? That's kind of where we are at this point. So what does everybody think? Should everybody in the town understand about our aquifer? Should we be sending this out via, some kind of brochure? Should we be posting this in various places? Certainly the town website, that makes sense. What mailing will be involved? What printing costs will be involved? This is I'm opening this up for discussion at this point.
I wonder if the brochure can somehow illuminate what the impact of drawing down the aquifer has on the well and hence on everybody's water. Because people who just live over the aquifer might be the target, but isn't everyone affected sooner or later? That's my thinking. So.
Well, that kind of historical information and anticipated use, because over the years, the impurities in the water have increased, and that's been documented. So that kind of information, I think, in a brochure would be useful and could be incorporated into it very easily.
Yeah.
Now, I think the brochure should be available, I would say, at the town hall in terms of hard copies. And I'm not sure how to distribute it, except maybe at town meetings and things like that, rather than individual mailings across the town. That, to me, I think distributing at meetings might be a more, an easier way of doing it.
Is it legal to stick a flyer in the water bill, the quarterly water bill that we get, just to be the same size as a number 10 envelope? Just something we can stick in. Is that legal for us to do that?
Yeah, that could be.
Stick it in the water bill?
I would say so. Yeah, sounds good.
If it's not too big yeah, sorry, go ahead, April.
That wouldn't reach everyone.
Yeah.
That would what?
It wouldn't reach everyone?
It wouldn't reach everyone.
No, I would say make it the same size as the number 10 envelope, just one little card that would go in a number 10 envelope.
Well, what percentage of people are on town water?
100?
What?
No, probably 75. I don't know. No, most people are on town water, I think.
No, that's not true. A lot of people have wells.
I know, I said most people are on town water. Some people do have wells, but I think 75% of us are on town water.
I don't know. I really don't know.
That's a good question. I do not know the percentage, but there are many people in the outlying districts that perhaps are not on town water.
I can ask Randall.
Well, I mean, wow, that's interesting. I live really close to Glendale Road, and I have a well, but I also have town water, and I of course use town water for my house, but we have a well access that we actually exhausted. We took out the pump when we moved here. So I'm not sure, Janet, what percentage live on.
You get a water bill, right?
Rini, yeah, I get a water bill. Rini, do you live on town water? Do you have town water?
When we bought the house, we had a well, and then we switched to town water. So we currently have town water.
Okay, Barry, do you have town water?
No, it ends at the brook by where Russellville Road begins. Right, where Gilbert Road begins.
Okay.
And all of Russellville and beyond where I am is wells. And I don't know about Gilbert Road.
How about you, Paula? Do you have town water?
We do.
And so I think that's a very good question, because a high percentage, higher than we think, might not be on town water.
Yeah. A large part of Gun Road does not have town water.
What about putting it in a tax bill? Is that legal?
We could put it in the tax bill, and we can also consider putting it into the next census bill that goes out. I mean, yearly, our town clerk sends out a notice of census. And even though it's, too late, obviously, for 2021, we could consider this for going out like a year from now. I checked in that recently, or not recently, a year or so ago, regarding the master plan project. That could be inserted there and save a little postage. But Charlie, your idea was maybe not send it out to all the residents? What do you?
Well, I think you could send out something smaller. It's the way it was from the discussion, I understand what you'd put in the water bill or tax bill would be a smaller version of it, or a smaller notice about the map. But I think sometimes these maps, the conservation land map, for example, they get very congested. So I would tend to like it to make it a little larger than something that could be fit into an envelope. And so it's a notice in the water bill and so on that this map exists, as well as maybe having it distributed at various meetings or in the town hall or in the library, that kind of thing. So it isn't too overwhelming for people just to read something and just throw it away,
So what I hear from you is actually two things. One is something that's very easy, small, easy to insert into some sort of mailing, mass distributed. We all drink the water, whether we drink it from town water or we have wells. We all have water issues in our town. That could be a smaller kind of publication, and then something larger. The thing about passing it on a town meeting, we know that we don't get a tremendous percentage of our population at town meeting. We love to think we do, but we don't. We get a rather small percentage at our town meeting. So I think I could see sort of two parts, something that could be widely distributed, easy to read, small. We could work with PVPC on this, and something larger for posting at places like Town Hall. We know Town Hall will open eventually. Posting at places like the library, posting at the Council on Aging and other public places. Sorry, who said that?
The dump.
The dump. Yep. Yeah, Rini, go ahead.
Can I just ask a question? I kind of know the answer to this, but I just wanted to be explicit about it. What is your hope from putting out this publication? Is it to simply educate people? Is it to encourage people not to build over it? I guess, what is your hope from doing it?
Okay, educating is important, but there's also regulations that people don't necessarily follow. When you live over the aquifer, you're not supposed to dispose of household materials on your lawn or oils from your lawnmower in an improper manner. They really should always be taken to the recycle center. And that is maybe honored more in the breach than the observance. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of thing that would be outlined. These are things normally that might be in the deed. And I think April might be able to expand about where this information might be given to property owners. But that information gets lost. And this would be a means to renew an understanding of it. That's all.
Good, thanks.
Thank you. April, I don't see your face anymore. You're on mute. And Paula, too. You're both realtors. Am I right that you have to inform potential buyers of properties in our town about what is required by our town? Is that something you take responsibility for when you talk to people that are looking at town properties? Either of you want to speak on that?
In a deed, Charlie's right, there would be a deed restriction, whether it comes from the Conservation Commission or wherever, that's written in the deed. So those things have to be disclosed. As far as building over the aquifer, I know Easthampton has regulations for the Plains area. I am not familiar with Southampton's regulations.
Okay. Paula, did you want to add to that?
No, I agree with what April said. Yep, and I don't think a lot of people realize, unless you are right over the aquifer and you have it in your deed and your agent or the seller has told you about it, I wouldn't even know where the aquifer is. So I think it's an important thing that you're even thinking about doing this.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, Charlie, thumbs up for you for doing this.
Yeah.
So let's move forward and see what the input from Pioneer Valley Planning Commission is. We have to put our arms around what we're going to ask for from from CPC regarding printing and cost to distribute. But it sounds to me like this is something that the entire town needs to understand. Mm-hmm. Does anybody want to add to that?
No, I agree.
I have a question. Back when I used to be working for the city of Westfield, there was a Burns Aquifer Protection Committee that met pretty regularly. Are they still part of what you're doing? Are they even active anymore? Or?
They went away.
They went away.
They did.
Yeah, but we get a lot of our water apparently in Southampton from Westfield. Mm-hmm. And we give a lot of water to Easthampton. So these three cities are highly dependent on that aquifer. And it would be, and Patty had the idea that if we come up with a template for Southampton, they'd like to replicate it in Westfield as well as Easthampton. So to transfer the information about how critical this aquifer is, its state of condition right now, what's anticipated in the future, all that could be transferred to the three cities with individual maps, with the other Westfield and Easthampton coming up with their own version of the map, with their own specific descriptions and maps of their town and how it's related to the aquifer. Does that make sense?
That also, West Holyoke is part of that aquifer.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the latest is with the contamination from Burns Airport, but you know, the Westfield wells, several of them got shut down.
Mm-hmm. That's something that maybe we'll become aware of during this exercise.
It's all the same aquifer. And I agree with what you said earlier. People on wells need to be every bit as interested as people on town water, because it's the same water supply, really.
Yeah. It was actually one of the things that came up during our discussion at Master Plan 2, and talking about maybe Southampton could be the sort of the instigator to try and recreate the committee. Maybe it'd be a smaller committee.
I see.
But at least to get Easthampton back involved. Westfield has some issues, I think, maybe related to the airport that, you know, they may or may not want to be part of. But at least if we in Easthampton could start talking about it, it might be worth reviving it. But just a suggestion. For those of you who may or may not know, March 22nd, I think, is World Water Day. And that's something that's a UN kind of promotional thing, basically trying to create awareness about the importance of sustainable resources, namely water. So if there were something, I don't know, that's probably not, timing-wise, is pretty close. Probably not going to work. But my thought would be to have some sort of a, not just the flyer thing, but some sort of an oral slideshow presentation kind of thing that, you know, like sort of like, well, if we're still in COVID, probably still a webinar type thing, but something online that people could tune into and watch and hear, and not just have a piece of something that comes in the mail to make it more real. So just as a thought, but the timing may not work.
Why wouldn't it work? We're only in December. It sounds good.
I don't know that you'd have the brochure done by then, but I mean, if nothing else, the presentation could be a precursor to the brochure too. So I mean, it might tie in. I don't know which comes first, but yeah.
I think that's great. Charlie, you got your work ahead of you.
No problem. That could be arranged, I think. We'll have to, one step at a time, CPC and then working with Pioneer Valley, and get all the data together.
I have to say, Charlie's done a great job. Let's work together on this and move forward. It's critical. Water is as important as anything we ever do. And protecting our water source, protecting our wetlands, protecting all of this is critical. Chris, I think that's fantastic. If we can focus on March 22nd being a sort of day that we do a webinar or something for Southampton and include other people, let's do it. Let's move forward on that. Great. Okay. And Charlie, look for additional reports as we go forward on this. But
no, I would suggest that we would, if we do that, to invite, you know, some folks from Easthampton, like the city planner and various others from Easthampton.
They have to be contacted. Yes, that's very reasonable.
Excellent. Bottom line, we're all interconnected. This is one world. Thank you. That's
great. March 22nd? What is that day?
World Water Day.
Okay.
And we'll all raise a glass of water and drink at that point. Okay, great. So Barry joined us a few minutes ago. Barry, the reason we asked you to come, number one, we really like you. No, more than that, we know that you
play the guitar.
Yeah.
And you play the guitar. But beyond that, you have knowledge of many things in our town, but one thing specifically is a parcel under Alder Pond, which we understand Alder Pond is filling. I've been going there a few different times the last few months. That's pretty exciting that it's refilling. But beyond that, do you want to talk about those parcels under Alder Pond? You told me a little bit about that in background several weeks ago. What do you know about? And there's one that's owned by the town.
Well, yeah, years ago, obviously I don't have any personal direct knowledge, but on the north end of my property on Crooked Ledge Road, there's a road that goes from Crooked Ledge right down to the pond. And we always refer to that as the Muck Road. And what that was access for certain people in town that own parcels under the water. Actually, I should back up. That pond is not historic. It has not historically always been there. it was for most, when it started out, it was just a marsh. And my grandfather in 1960 built a dam. Well, he hired it out with the Soil Conservation Service's blessing and guidance and created that pond that's there now. It was really just a brook running through there. And in the around mid 1800s, sometime before the Civil War, from then till probably the turn of last century, say the 1890s, certain people in town owned those lots in that area, and they would access that to haul out the muck. People that lived downtown, and they would use that for their gardens, as if it were a mulch or a compost, because it was basically partially digested vegetative waste, or not even waste, but debris and detritus from the plants in the marsh there. So that's kind of what they did there. And the pond got created. Those became underwater. People stopped doing that as things evolved. There were other easier ways to get fertilizer for their lawns and their gardens. So that's sort of how it ended, I guess. And even to this day, you're right, certain lots under that water on the north end are owned, I think one by the town. And I was talking to Charlie Fisher a while ago, and he knew of somebody that, I think of Brian Murphy from town owns one of those lots. And I don't know who all else does actually right now. So.
No, so you said that they were used for, I heard the word muck, like organic vegetation that would be really high in nutrients for putting on gardens, etc. And so people would come, am I correct that people would come down maybe with their car or their wagon or their truck and sort of dig up that vegetation and bring it up to their gardens wherever they were? And that was the idea?
Essentially, right. It would have been horse and wagons, though, back then.
Okay.
And done by hand in the swamp, basically. Hard work, I'm sure. I, at one time, was under the assumption that it was peat that they were digging out for heating their homes, but apparently not. I talked to Charlie not too long ago, and he set me straight. It was just the muck that they were after, and there really wasn't peat there per se. And that kind of makes sense, which is why my family always called this the Muck Road. So.
Is it still underwater?
It is, yeah.
Even now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Diana. Yeah, sorry.
Well, I guess Marla of the Conservation Commission was interested when some of this land was exposed, and she was wondering, is it something that we would want to consider adding to Wolf Hill Sanctuary?
Oh.
Yeah.
I suppose it's really not any good to anybody as it is. And I don't think there's any frontage for the people to ever access it. I wouldn't be opposed to it, I guess, but I'm okay with it as it is, too.
You don't think there's any risk of development or?
I can't imagine how there could be, no. I'm frankly more concerned about the triangular lot that the Waynes family had there. As you all know, I think I've at one time or another bent all of your ears about that whole thing. I still would like to not give up on that, but I understand Jeffrey Flork's building one house and has ideas of a second one there. And you probably know he's got it logged off. He's midway through getting that all logged off.
Well, that's not actually under Alder Pond, am I correct?
Oh, I'm talking about, what I am personally more concerned about is that parcel, the Wayne parcel there.
It's owned currently by the Florks, though, correct, Barry? Yeah.
Right.
I'm desperately trying to look through the maps right this very second.
I think it's map 27, parcel 3, 17 acres. Is that it?
It was listed as 17, but lo and behold, once he got it surveyed, it's more like 29 plus acres.
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah.
And he is, this is what you mentioned to me, Cindy. It's going through some sort of development now. He's built a house on it.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
Barry, for your information, we talked specifically about maps and lots versus names at this point. So this individual who owns that property, and it was in 61, he did come to the planning board. He did say that he wanted to, that they wanted to develop it, but it met the criteria for a family member.
Yes.
And I've driven up there and I see that there's a house pretty far in, it's pretty well completed at this point. I think that house, or just about completed. They did meet the guidelines for stormwater drainage. It was all met the criteria.
Yeah.
I know that there was a lot of cutting. I've gone onto the Wolf Hill property many times in the last several months. I love that area. It's so beautiful up there. And because I'm a sort of a wannabe writer with my mentor, whose name is Diana Fetterman. She reads my stuff and tells me how badly I do. But I wrote a little thing about going down there, and last March, and it was so amazing when Alder Pond still had water in it, and this was way back last March. And I went down there and I saw an otter come up through the ice and he had fish in his mouth. It was so, sorry, we're kind of off open space, but it was so moving for me.
Wow.
It was so cool. And then a pileated woodpecker on the very same day, working really hard to get stuff off a tree. It was so cool.
Wow.
And I see how much clearing has gone on I'm calling it the left side of the property over there. I think they met criteria for their cutting plan. I don't know. Cutting plans are different for all things, but they haven't, am I right? They haven't done anything wrong, but nonetheless, it's a lot of clear cutting, more so than you might have wanted to see.
But I think Barry's issue isn't about that. It's about the acquisition of the lots to begin with.
Right. And just to reiterate, maybe you've heard me say this before, when this first all was going down, Jeffrey and I talked, and his idea was to buy the chunk of land there, what we thought was 17 acres, and build his house or build 2 houses and sell the rest to me. I have hopes that still could be possible, but in the intervening time, he's done a few things that were not really what he originally said he was going to do. Namely, his cutting plan was very aggressive. And I asked him to please at least leave the sugar maples there, because I had hopes of tapping them, doing sugaring. And he pretty much basically ignored that and just did what he wanted. So I don't really know where he's at now or what's on his mind. It's sort of back burner at the moment, I guess.
Have you talked to him lately, Barry?
No, not since the stormwater management was being approved, and there was an issue with that. I think it was a Zoom meeting. I think it was a ConsCom meeting I sat in on, and I talked to him before that a little bit, but nothing really of any substance to report from that conversation. So
Barry, was the cutting plan according to the plan what ended up being cut, or was that did that vary?
Well, let me say this about that. The forester that he has sort of a reputation as being more of a immediate benefit type of attitude rather than a long range sustainability type of approach. In other words, his cutting is pretty aggressive at the get-go at the expense of longer range considerations. That's his reputation, but it met the requirements. It was approved by the state forester, and the cutting plan was approved, and his cutting that's been done there has also met the cutting plan's specifications, as aggressive as they are. So it's not how I would have chosen to do it, but you know, what can you do?
Maybe the same logger that was on High Street.
Oh, yeah?
Maybe, I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
Very aggressive too.
Barry, what else do you think we can do from Open Space Committee? I mean,
Well,
you and I have talked, but I don't know.
I think we're all on the same page as far as, you know, our wishes. I'd say just let's stay vigilant. And if any of us hear anything, just stay in touch with each other, I guess. That's really cool. You saw the otter, Cindy. I've been living here all my life. I've never yet seen an otter. I've seen evidence of them, but to actually see one is pretty cool. By the way, I've seen eagle down there too a few times.
Well, not only that, but as part of the neighborhood outreach program that was a grant we received and was activated in the beginning of 2019.
Yeah.
We brought Molly Hale, who is a naturalist in this area. She went down. Diana and I were together on that particular day, and we walked down there, and she just like got apoplectic about getting all the way down to the shore. This was in the beginning of 2019, so it was a while ago. There was water there. It was early spring.
Yeah.
And we saw the, help me with the word, the blue heron. What was that called, Diana? Where they were all in the trees. There's a word for it. I can't.
Right, blue heron?
The blue heron, but it was the nesting on the trees.
Rookery.
What is it?
A rookery?
Rookery. It was a rookery of blue heron on the opposite shore, going down from Wolf Hill, and she went, "Oh my God!"
Oh, right, I remember that.
It was phenomenal.
How many?
And I have been down there a few different times since. Now, as a result of the decline in the water and now the resurgence of the water, I don't see the rookery recently, but there was a really cool rookery. We need to bring this person back in terms of education, and we haven't got to the point of goals for 2021, but I want to see our town be more educated about this phenomenal natural resources that we have. And one of them is all of these kinds of wildlife that we have and that we don't know about, that we don't see.
Yeah.
And that was moving to me. So we got otter, we got beaver they are the ones that have rebuilt their dams to refill Alder Pond. That's my understanding. They said we need water, right? I mean, maybe they don't say it like in English, but they know that they need that. They didn't go away. They didn't ever go away. So now the water's coming back. We've got, and I'm sure the otters are still there too, but it was moving. So, all right.
Barry, could I ask, the farmland that's for sale on the other side of the pond, would that affect any of that? You know, like where would it come right down to the pond? And
I actually own the other shore already.
oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then the farm is to the east of that. Right up. There's a stone wall there that's not quite the boundary, but for simplicity's sake, you could say that's the boundary between where my uncle had, you know, and then my part and the lower part down to the water.
Good. So the rookery is safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it returns.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So is there anything specific to do related to this muck area underneath Alder Pond, which is currently owned by the town? And I'm not able to put my finger on the actual parcel on the map right now, but I mean, there really isn't anything we can do. It's under the pond. It's owned by the town. We don't know how it was acquired by the town.
Right.
But,
Well, not all of it's owned by the town. I think that's,
but there's one lot, right?
There's
one
three
lot.
or four. I think there's like 3 or 4 parcels that are in that category. One of which is owned by the town, apparently.
yeah.
I don't know that much about who owns them now. To me, I think they're safe from ever being developed. If that's your concern, I can't imagine what good they'd be for anybody to do anything other than enjoy in their natural beauty as they are.
So that town one would have been acquired like back in the 1800s. Is that what you're thinking, Barry? Or
I wonder if it was, maybe that's possible, but it might also be that they took it for taxes from somebody else.
no?
Just walked away from it, possibly. I really don't know.
That other person you mentioned, is it Brian McCarthy, I believe? He's
Murphy.
Murphy. He's on Facebook from time to time. He doesn't live here in town anymore, but I see his name on Facebook, and he shares old town photos occasionally. So
wow. Really?
He's somebody findable if we ever wanted to talk to him, I'm sure.
I never met him, but I think he was my brother's age in school. They knew each other. And yeah, that'd be interesting to hear what he's got to say.
Yep.
Oh, Chris, where is his town? Sorry, April, go ahead.
His
April,
house I'm sorry.
Map 27, parcels 25 is Mr. Murphy's. Parcel 24 is a town. Parcel 23 is another out-of-town buyer or owner.
Yeah.
Which map again? April.
Yeah, this all came up because Marla was interested and thought maybe we should be interested in this. So maybe we should go back to her and say, you know, it doesn't seem like there's any risk of development, but
if they wanted to annex it onto the sanctuary, I mean, yeah, it's okay too. But
yeah.
I don't see it as a pressing need necessarily.
Right. Okay.
April, repeat the map again. I didn't hear the first part. What number map?
27.
27. Okay.
Yep.
And Murphy's old house where he lived as a kid is a couple of doors up from the old library, right on College Highway.
That sounds right, yes. Yeah. North of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else regarding this specific to Barry's report and information? Barry, you're really valuable. We may want you at every single meeting. Sorry.
Thank you, guys. Nice to see you all.
Don't go away. Don't go away.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Let's move to, I want to give you a little report on some contacts that have evolved in the last few weeks since our last meeting. One of them is map 5, number 2. We've talked about this before. I'm going to give you the name of the owner. It's Dandy LLC, and that's two brothers. One of them passed away, and we've had 2 Zoom meetings, this family. The second one, which was just a few days ago, was included Mark Walmsley, and it's 100 acres, and we're finding out more information. This absolutely is on the border of Westhampton, and either side of this land is owned by another landowner. They own each side of it. It's on map 5. These people are inclined to do a conservation restriction. As far as we can tell, it's not developable. I asked April to give me just kind of an overview of, in an unofficial sort of appraisal, a real estate appraisal. She was very, very helpful about what lands, landlocked, undevelopable, might cost and might be available. And this one, Edwards Road, which is an old road, goes down, but at the lower end of Edwards Road, that's privately owned property. It's owned by the Pellegrini people, the people who are developing Quigley Estates and et cetera. And that road will, as far as I can tell, will never be opened again by the town. I will get another opinion from the planning board as to whether 1 or 2 houses could be built in Southampton without developing a subdivision. I don't think that's the case, but I will ask the planning board for a complete opinion on that. Subdivision-wise, it's impossible. If a subdivision is built in Southampton, according to our subdivision bylaws, it needs to be accessed by another Southampton road for emergency vehicles and for maintenance. That makes perfect sense. But I don't know about 1 or 2 houses on a road. I will double check with that.
Cindy, Cindy, were you going to let Barry go?
Well, he can go if he wants, but I just wanted to know about that. Barry, you can leave anytime you want.
Okay.
I'm just being nosy here, eavesdropping here.
Barry, go if you want, but I told you might be interested in any of this, right?
I am actually. Yeah, I'll stay while I can. Go away, but if you don't mind, I'll hang around for a little bit.
You can hang around the whole damn meeting, as far as I'm concerned. That's great. You might be interested, Barry, in another large landowner. I'm never good with a quick answer for the numbers, but he owns a large piece of property. His name is Justin Smith. And he owns something over the water aquifer, over the Tykermody aquifer. And it was on for sale for $1.1 million. Do you know who that person is?
No.
He's an attorney in Northampton, and it's off the market right now. But I've spoken with him by phone, and he's basically invited me to go walking on the property. I'm not going to go by myself. It's not public property. And he said there's some, bull moose out there that's trying to, find somebody to mate with during rutting season. I don't want to go out there and run into the bull moose, but I'd love to go with somebody else, and including this gentleman. But anyway, he's very knowledgeable about all that property up there. And it's over the Tykermody watershed, and we are on the radar of Hoyle water commissioners to let them know about some of this stuff. So that's just a second part of that. So today, or the other day, I'm sorry, not recently, recently I sent an email to the other owners of the 2 properties on each side of this Dandy LLC, and that's somebody that's attended the neighborhood outreach programs, and invited them to make another contact with me. Diana provided me with the email access to them. I haven't had a response back from them, but we're hoping to hear. Back to what I said earlier, we are on the radar screen of Kestrel. They know that we're working hard to preserve some of this really, really undeveloped, beautiful forested lands up there. It's really critical. And whether we go forward at some point to get a Massachusetts landscape grant or something, it's going to take a long time. It's going to take months, maybe years to move forward on this. But the whole idea is preservation of this absolutely phenomenal land up there. And it's not necessarily developable, but we should preserve it for perpetuity because we don't know what the future will hold. So that's my report on that. The other one is on map 31, which is, I've spoken. Do you have any questions about that? Anybody about those particular properties right now? No.
I just want to add that when you look them up on the Mass government GIS or map system, those parcels are there's some wetlands and also core habitat that are on the parcels.
Thank you. They're core habitat, they're wetlands. Remember, the part of the charge of this committee is to be on top of some of this stuff so that we know if it ever should come up for sale land. We have the right of first refusal. We're on top of it. That's part of our charge. So we're doing that. Moving on to map 31. Which is over there on the Easthampton line. We've talked about this before. It's parcel number 2. I just want you to know that I spoke with Mark Walmsley, so that's for the minutes. That's map 31, parcel 2. It's acreage that's landlocked, 31 acres. The decision between Mark Walmsley and me is to bring together the important parties, which included Mass Fisheries and Wildlife, and perhaps Easthampton Planning and Easthampton Water Commissioners, et cetera, to talk about the acquisition of this property, perhaps after the first of the year. We're going to try to do some kind of where do we go from here kind of meeting. So that's the second one to report on. The third one, which is pretty exciting, is on map 6. Sorry, map 2. Am I right about this? Wait a minute. Anyway, it's Holyoke Beagle Club. It's really exciting. Map 2, parcels.
Full map. Yeah.
What's that?
I was going to say it might be on more than one map.
It's on multiple maps, you're right. On map 2, it's on parcel 6 and parcel 12, and it's on additional maps too. It's the Holyoke Beagle Club property. Of interest to all of us, that is absolutely next to the Clearwater Woodlands. A couple of gentlemen sort of encountered Marla and another member of the Conservation Commission one day when they were out there walking on Clearwater Woodlands and said, has the town heard anything about us, the town, buying this property? This is pretty phenomenal property. This is right out there. It's wild, it's wonderful, and it's been owned for close to 100 years by the Holyoke Beagle Club, but that's a situation of aging membership and not necessarily having a lot of money for maintaining the costs to maintain that land. I sent out letters to a couple of people, the president and the treasurer, and I got a phone call back just a few days ago, within the last week, from the treasurer. He said, what's this about? Why are you contacting me? And I said exactly what I say to every landowner. All we're interested in knowing is what your plans are for your land, how we can support you, et cetera. He admitted to me that they're running into financial difficulties. In the past, they have sold off parcels on Lead Mine Road in order to keep the club going. And if any of you are familiar with those parcels, they're residential parcels, houses that have been built, but they can't sell any more parcels because they only have one more left that's got access to a public road on Lead Mine. They can't sell that, or then they'll be totally landlocked. So he wasn't exactly committing, but he was definitely opening up like a crack in the door that said, we know that we can't afford to keep this property. We know that we're running into financial difficulties. I said, let us know if we could ever attend a meeting, if we could understand what's helpful to you. We don't know where that's going to go, but it's in Chapter 61. It's important to recognize that we're trying to stay on top of the potential for a land sale that would result in putting forth to our town the right of first refusal, and the timing. We would like to avoid the sort of ominous timing involved of right of first refusal. So that's going to be followed up. That's many, many acres of, and my husband and I walked to that border the other day. We sort of went out there and bushwhacked, got out there. Good news to bushwhack at this time of the year because there's not that much green, but we're climbing over and under and everything, trying to go around that. I think they're actually, I personally believe they're already impinging on other property. I think they're on Raymond's property. When I went down around their fence, they've really gone down around property that I think exceeds what their land is. And we know they've done it on our land, maybe unassumingly, I don't know. But so I'm going to report
about 100 acres, is that right? About 100 acres?
at least 100, yeah. Yep. So just kind of get this on our radar screen, okay? So that's what I wanted to report on. Barry, you can leave anytime you want. I don't want to hold you, but you're welcome to stay.
Well, this is interesting stuff. I was curious, are you talking about the parcel on Lead Mine Road, or I thought you meant the one off of like between College Highway and Pomeroy Meadow Road? Is that something different?
No.
There's the shooting range there between.
Yeah, that's a gun club. Yeah.
Oh, that's a gun club, a different place. Yeah.
That's not what you're talking about.
No, we're talking Lead Mine Road.
Okay.
It abuts the Clearwater. It's, for hundreds of feet abuts Clearwater woodland. So if we could expand it, we'd have like huge. It goes pretty far up Lead Mine Road.
That's beautiful up there.
Yeah. They did clear quite a bit of it a few years ago. The part that's right next to Clearwater, you can see it was like clear cut. I guess they did that for money too. Wow. And it's all grown up with seedlings and, So I think it would be a chore getting trails in there, but it could be done.
I gotta be honest with you, Diana, I don't know what kind of chore it would be. We saw a ton of trails already developed in there. It's kind of all the way around the fence, on the inside of the fence, but there are trails in there. Interesting.
I guess those dogs need trails.
Well, different trails perhaps. But that's quite an interesting thing. And it also abuts New England Forestry.
Yeah.
Foundation. That's it. Yeah. So in terms of potential for conservation and our guidelines that we have already outlined as, what we want to conserve meets all the criteria. It's wildlife, and we saw fresh deer tracks in there, very fresh. I mean, I think that they were like right in front of me and I wasn't watching. That's how fresh they looked to me. What do I know? But anyway, it's really cool. Not the gun range though. That's a different one, Barry.
Okay.
So, okay, moving on. Charlie, you had put forth your map that you had looked at, and do you want to talk about some of those lands right now?
Yeah, I just put that away, but I looked over the maps that were assigned to me. And one of them was map 27, which is got these parcels, these muck parcels that were mentioned already in our discussion. But there was a number of other lots. Barry, are you still there?
I'm here.
All right. Your family owns a number of parcels on map 27. Has your family ever considered transferring those or getting conservation restrictions on those parcels and adding them to Wolf Hill?
There really aren't that many that I know of. I mean, I've got a house on Russellville Road that I built, and then there's where I'm at here on Crooked Ledge. I think the acreage was like 200 we put into protection.
Yeah.
Right? So there's only a little bit else that's not.
There's parcel on 27, parcel 7, which is 7.5 acres, and I understand, and I'm not the most knowledgeable of going through the town records, but I understand that's your parcel, and it's access Crooked Ledge Road.
Yes, that's where my house is that I'm at right now. Yeah.
Okay, so that's not something you'd be interested in getting an access to Wolf Hill over that property.
Correct. Yeah. I don't know what the future holds for my kids.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess the answer, Charlie, is I'm happy as things are right now.
Okay, if any time you know, and I would think that we'd like to enhance Wolf Hill, if that's within the, the interest of the family, then
Yeah.
I guess we'd be interested in talking about it. The other area, and again, I've been hiking through the map schedules that I was supposed to look at. A number of them are on map 23, and that's near the center of town. And one of the ideas that at least I have thought of, and it's from observations of how people use the sidewalk of Pomeroy Meadow. You see people on that, I would say, every time I drive by it. And it's very useful to the people. And there's more people who use that to walk their dogs and to walk and jog than probably on the 700 acres that we have under conservation restrictions, which are very critical. But the number, I'm thinking of these parcels that really have an impact with the citizens of the town, similar to what we might anticipate with the Greenway. And there's a number of parcels, and not that we don't have enough work about getting grants to say some of these parcels that are in the center of town. I am losing my power here. Are you still with me?
We can hear you, but we lost your face. Oh, there you are. Okay, go ahead.
I'm on my iPhone, not my iPad today.
Well,
but
please play your electric bill next time. Sorry, Charlie.
Yeah. But these parcels are right in the center of town. Janet Brown has a number of them. And is this an area where we would like to develop more park space for the citizens to jog and to walk in that area? That would be on the other side of the street from Conan Park. And that's the idea. And there is a grant, a parkland acquisition and renovations for community grant program. And it's something that provides money to develop parklands. And I'm just thinking that should we think of parklands expansion in the center of town? That's the fundamental idea. Is that something that this committee would be interested in thinking about? We've got an awful lot of things on our plate right now, but that's one of the things that could be derived from these maps that I checked out on map 23 in particular, and in the center of town. Okay, is that what you wanted me to say? I sent that to you, Cindy, and that's the idea I was wondering about.
Well, I think it's great. I will say we don't have Dan LaValle tonight. I will say that he's been communicating with me recently, trying to think of ways to utilize what's already owned by the town of Southampton.
Yeah.
In terms of Conan Park and where our library is, and properties that actually went up for sale on East Street. We in the town know we have multiple needs. We're looking at ways to have affordable housing. We're looking at ways to maybe do something with parks, improving our Conan Park areas. He couldn't make it tonight because of a conflict with a PVPC meeting. He's representative of the planning board on PVPC. But Charlie, I think you've raised a really good question. I think bottom line is we have to coordinate on all this. Let's not give up on this idea. I think it's good. Let's kind of go forward on this and put this on our radar screen, maybe not like immediately, but going forward for ways to connect with all these ideas. You mentioned map 23.
Yeah.
And if you look at map 23, which goes High Street, crosses on sort of one side of it and goes up Maple, there is a number of properties on map 23 that we sent letters to the landowners. As you know, I sent letters to like 30 different landowners, including properties number 31, 30, 27. There's a large number of acreage that goes up there, and I say up because I think it's an incline at that point, and it goes up to some place called is that Little Mountain on that side? Janet, am I right about that? Does that go up Little Mountain?
Yes,
Yeah, okay. And that, one of our really respected elder citizens in town, Mr. Hendrick, had said it would be really helpful if we thought about connecting those properties and maybe over time seeing a total town connection going up there. So I haven't, gosh knows we can't follow up with everybody immediately, but over time I'd like to see some follow up on some of those properties too, to have, complete connection going up Little Mountain on that same map 23. So we're working on that piece too. And some of those people actually attended the neighborhood outreach thing, and specifically one landowner on map 27, on parcel 27, map 23, had been in touch with Mark Walmsley at Kestrel as interested in knowing ways to conserve land. So that's really kind of good.
Yeah, that's the one I thought might be a nice urban park in the center of town that would help. I've just observed how these people like to walk on Pomeroy Meadow, and I think having more of those areas for the town would be ideal.
Okay, so let's put those on our Excel sheet. Janet, I didn't email you that list, but I will from Charlie, so we can get it on the Excel sheet. Okay.
Did we skip over Janet's review poster? Poster?
Yes, we skipped over that, Janet. So let's move to something that was on the old business. Barry, you can leave anytime you want.
I was going to say, I'm going to sign off and thank you all. Keep up the good work. You guys are great.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you. Come anytime you can.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, let's move quickly because these meetings run really long. Let's quickly go to share screen on Janet's poster. Let's see, is this the one?
Let's do your poster.
I'm trying to find out which. Yeah, here it is. Okay. I did a little bit of editing on Janet's original poster. The idea is to look at this tonight and decide and approve it. So I'm going to forward. Let me see if I can get this screen down.
Oh.
Can you all see that poster? I'm trying to get it down to the full thing. How do I minimize this?
I see it.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so this is the poster. It starts out Southampton's Open Space Committee. Mission, protection of lands, the town's farmlands, woodlands, wetlands, scenic views, and other open spaces vital in sustaining the town's historic, agricultural, and rural character and in maintaining the quality of air, water, and wildlife habitat for the health and well-being of our residents. We can assist landowners in land conservation considerations. The contact information, we can insert the new email address, which we have.
Oh, good.
Which is actually open space at town. You got it. Open space at townofsouthampton.org. That's correct. And then you've got a listing of the various forms of conservation. I really like these pictures, by the way. I think they're nice.
I just want to say the one on the left, I think it's just really beautiful. It was in a flyer from Kestrel, and I asked Kestrel if it was in public domain, if I could use it, and they said it was, so it's legal to put it there. And the one on the right is at my house, so I know that's legal.
I love it. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's very beautiful. So it's pretty straightforward. I think your idea is to have this produced and available at the town hall, the town landfill, put it on the town website. Any comments at this point? Questions, comments?
Well, the idea that to have something that's small, a small version of this poster that's put in the water bill or the tax bill or something like that. I like that idea. I don't know if you want to do it with this information, but at least it tells us this open space committee exists, etc. And that's just another idea of getting it in front of more people.
Okay.
A smaller version of it, that's all. Mailable.
Rini, are you talking? Because you're muted.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, now.
I like this version of it because actually it's a beautiful poster. I love the photos. But the original one, I like that sentence right below the mission, because I think that was my thought on the previous one, that you had to kind of go down a little bit more to see, okay, what is this for? So I like that. We can assist landowners. That's perfect.
Good. Other thoughts, anybody?
Well, I would take out the possible in front of grants/tax credits, because it makes it seem a little less likely, and it's just as likely as any of the other things, you know?
So just take out that word possible, just put grants/tax credits. Good.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, take that word out. Okay. Other thoughts, anybody? I like it. Do I hear a motion to accept it with the one change that removes the word possible and then improves on this question mark area there? We just put email openspace@townofsouthampton.org. Those are the.
We don't have an email.
I'll second it.
Wait a minute. I'm hearing more than one thing. What? Diana?
I said so moved.
Oh, and I hear a second. So moved by Diana and seconded by Charlie. Great.
Yeah. Yep.
Any other discussion? Okay. I love it. We are really on everybody's map. We're doing a great job here in Southampton. We're moving forward on these things. Just for your, all right, so I should take a vote at this point, sorry. This is a verbal vote by the voting members. All in favor, say your last name and say aye. Palmer, aye.
McDonald, aye.
Roden, aye.
West, aye.
Fetterman, aye.
Brown, aye.
Okay, I hear a unanimous vote. That's great, thank you. I can't even enforce and say as much in favor of how much we're doing. We're doing the right thing. We're staying involved. We're connecting, and we're connecting all the town committees. That's a critical part of all of this. So Janet, do you want to make the couple of changes on this, and then?
Yes, I will. Be happy.
Okay. Great. So that's approved. Thank you very, very much for your work on that. So what's left? So there's a couple things that I wanted to bring up. I forgot to mention in terms of reports that the open space and recreation plan has moved to the point of nearly final approval, according to an email from Ed today, that I guess there's a couple little sections that our consultant PVPC is going to add to it, but hopefully it'll be put on the town website for public approval and public review. And then it's already been sent to the state in the draft form. That's important for us all to know. So we're moving really further to getting approval on that. So that's the open space and recreation plan. I forgot to mention that earlier. Sorry about that. Let's see here. I wanted to bring up two things on new business. One is we are a subcommittee of the select board. We are appointed by various committees, but we report to the select board. And I think we should get on the select board agenda to give them a report of what we've been doing. And I'd kind of like to see that perhaps for January. I can easily create a report from our last many meetings. So I don't know that I need any more input from everybody on this, but we've done a lot, and I can do that. Does anybody want to comment on the idea of getting on the select board agenda for perhaps January sometime or so?
Would that be a good time to ask them for a very small budget? Remember how we talked about that? And I don't think it's unreasonable. Like $50 for
Come on, Diana.
Well, people are always spending their own money. Who's going to pay to have these posters printed now?
Well, it's CPC, I would think. But
no, I mean the ones, the poster for that Janet made.
Yeah, couldn't that be?
Well, that's an official application. CPC requires an application for all of it.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask.
And I think it's a good idea, but I actually just did the agenda with Ed for next Tuesday's meeting, and I actually put in the notes, let's resume presentations by committees and department heads starting in January, because we do have a regular somewhat cycle of clustering, like emergency people, police, fire, EMD, and then other departments, finance group together, and conservation groups together. I think that it would be unlikely to get money for FY21. Frankly, I think going up on FY22 would be a much better likelihood. Every department was cut 4%, and we do anticipate having a town meeting again in the spring. And there was money that was, there's money in the accounts, free cash. There was an additional $20-something thousand. But I don't know what you think, Chris, but I think the money is tight for this particular fiscal year because
maybe just plant the idea.
No, I think that's a good idea. I think because right around when it's really spring that the requests start coming in for FY22. So I think it's a good idea.
Well then, yeah.
Chris, do you want to add? Chris?
No, I was just going to say, I think that's the timing. I mean, as we start talking about budget issues already back probably in March or April, sometime in there, right? So that would be the time to ask for it. I know we had tried to put in a conservation agent. That obviously didn't happen. I mean, there's lots of competing needs for sure, but it's clear that there are some simple costs that could be covered this way. Just as an agenda moment, while I have the floor, just looking at the website, the open space and recreation plan on the website.
Oh,
that's in the last 3 hours.
All in 219 pages of it, by the way.
Oh,
wow, that's awesome.
So it's on the front page of the website.
Good.
Looks like Ed's working overtime because he didn't have it. He didn't have it on there before. That's great. Wow, thank you.
Well, again, I think he gives it off to this person, and whenever she gets around to doing it, I don't know what her schedule is, but.
Good, thanks. So you're proposing, well, two things I hear, that we could request to be on the agenda for a meeting in January or so, just to give a report on on the Open Space Committee. And the second thing is plant the idea for us getting a modest budget for expenses, which include printing and mailing, really, because it's true, it's been sort of privately covered up until this point. And then if we don't get on fiscal year 2021, perhaps 2022.
And we can't use those funds that's at Kestrel. We keep talking about this, and
we can request from those funds. Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay.
I've resisted because I've covered some of this myself, and I've been okay with that. But I think that wisely going forward, we should be utilizing funds that have already been contributed.
I think so, and we just submit the bills, the invoices. I know I did a flyer also for community preservation, but that was paid for by the town. I had it done at Puffer, and Virginia told me to submit the bill to the town, and we did that.
I heard a discussion when I had that meeting out at Conan Park, and during that meeting, people said that those monies are only accessible to the Friends group and not to our group. And that is not the case, Cindy?
No, right now, They're still at Kestrel. They're not left Kestrel. I put in an invoice for covering for some printing costs many months ago, and Kestrel covered that.
Okay, so,
That had to do with some printing related to informing citizens in terms of going to the town meeting. Right now, that fund is still with Kestrel, and the reason is this. The Friends of Southampton Open Space has created a 501c3 fund. However, they need a letter from IRS that says that that's the case. Kestrel will not release those funds to Friends of Southampton Open Space without that letter. And it's a little bit of a sort of bureaucratic thing at this point. So that's the answer on that.
okay.
When we established that fund, did we set any criteria for it or what the monies would be there for? Way back when we set up this fund, did we have any criteria?
We never set up a fund, Janet. We make donations to that.
The monies that Kestrel is accumulating, do we have any establishment of the criteria what those monies could be used for? I don't know. I've never heard that.
Yeah, the Friends group, do they have a charge, just like we have a charge, right, Cindy? And they have a strategy and maybe resources, just like we have in some of the documents that you've developed. Could we exchange our documents with whatever documents they have to make sure we're on the same page? The Friends group and the Open Space Committee?
They have bylaws. And they have goals, and there is a little bit of an overlap. I don't have those right in front of me right now, but they're a private group. They are not a town committee. They're not elected, and they are hopefully there to assist in supporting open space in our town. And they're important to us because there can be tax deduct for many reasons, but one of them is that they can be a place for making donation for tax
tax-free
donations. Yep. Yes, exactly.
Yep. But is it reasonable for us to have some understanding of their charter and their procedures, and so that we're I'm not in their membership and how their members are appointed and so on. All that is seemingly obscure to me right now. Is it reasonable to get that kind of information and also exchange what we know about our group and the documents you have? Okay.
Yeah. Well, first of all, they are only a board at this point. They are not. There's no more membership right now. That we need to support that. That's got to happen. That's one of my goals for 2021 is to see support of the development of more Friends. Right now, it's just a board. It's like 5 or 6 people. But we don't have any oversight on their development at all. We can only be supportive to them. That's the answer. And if a individual in the town wishes to make a contribution, that's a perfectly private donation, okay? That's what it is, all right? But if people don't feel good about that, then they don't make a donation, so it's like, so do we want to align them? It's really more of a soft way of alignment. So we maintain contact with them, we support them. So far it's looked good, but we need to make sure that we're comfortable with the alignment. We can't impose any rules on them. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, to some extent. It's just that we understand, like they're having a project now or thinking of, you mentioned early on, for Clearwater. They may be developing a project there. Yeah. And we wouldn't be, we didn't become aware of that, or we're getting it, understanding the mandate that they would have to develop such a project. That's all. And it seemed like, as just as a group, and given the expertise, especially in the Conservation Commission, that could develop such a project. So Anyway, as long as communications is satisfactory to you, then that's fine. It's just that I was just thinking of exactly what their mandate was and so on.
They don't have a mandate. They don't report to anybody in the town. They don't report to the select board or to the town administrator or anybody in the town. So it's a somewhat soft mandate or soft connection. They don't have any charge. They do have bylaws. I feel very strongly that we maintain contact with them and that we can be involved. Fortunately, that's gone well so far. The question came up about what they could do at Clearwater, and I directed them back to Marla so they could, because Marla and the Conservation Commission have responsibility for Clearwater, not us. And so that's how it could work. They could come up with another project that was completely separate, and we would hopefully need to coordinate with them on that. But okay, I know Rini needs to leave. I know. Do you want to say anything else, Rini, before you leave?
No, I just committed to calling somebody who called me about the school, so I have to go. But I just, can you just let me know what day you're considering meeting? I know you mentioned about having a different time to meet than the Friends.
Yeah. Can I raise that right now with everybody on the committee? So right now we are not able to attend the Friends of Open Space Committee meeting because it's the second Thursday of the month. And I'd like to know if we could change our meeting to either the first or the third Thursday of the month so that we're not right up, in the same night as the Friends of Open Space. How does everybody feel? Can I propose the third Thursday of the month in January?
Because the council.
How's everybody feel about that?
Yeah.
Sorry, what were we saying? What?
No, the council meets the first Wednesday of the month, so the third would be better, definitely.
Third.
So we're jumping, but let's make our next meeting January 21st. Is that okay? That's the third Thursday.
At 7?
At 6.
6, okay.
I won't be there that night. We have a ParkCom meeting that night.
Are we always going to move up against park conservation?
No, usually we meet on a Wednesday, but we had too many conflicts, so we moved it to Thursday.
Thank you,
Thursdays should be fine.
Okay, thanks, Paula. For January, we'll do that, and we'll miss you very much. But okay.
Which day the date was? Which day on the 22nd?
21st.
21st.
It's January 21st. It's the third Thursday. Okay, Rini? Thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you. You too. Bye, everybody.
Christmas. Bye.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on. We covered the select board question about meeting with the select board, and I'll work with the person, and probably Rini, who sets the agenda for that. Goals for 2021. Has anybody thought of any particular goals that they wanted to bring forth on this? We can wait and table this for another meeting. If you haven't had a chance, I've certainly thought of a bunch. I would like to work with the Conservation Commission to develop a community garden, to see how we can do that. I know that's come up on the Conservation Commission. I would like to see a pollinator garden. And I would like to see potential for a bylaw that's low salt utilization on our public roads as protection. And I would like to see, working with the Agricultural Commission, the possibility of over time developing a farmer's market in our town. Those are 4 things that I'm proposing for 2021. And the fifth one is more education around, and we've already started that, around protection of open space.
I would like to see a big land acquisition by us. I'd like to see us save like 100 acres next year. Preserve.
How about 1,000? No. Okay, land acquisition, you're saying 100 acres.
Yeah, really focus on some parcel that we preserve.
Anybody else want to put down a potential goal? We can put together a list of this for the next meeting. So you can just kind of like pie in the sky. Any ideas? I think, Charlie, you brought up more walking areas.
Yes, that would be allied with getting another parcel, but in the center of town, that would be, in Europe, they have what is called an English park, where the land itself is left to nature, but they have very good walkways and maybe some lights and some of that type of activity or parcels in the center of town related to the parcels that are being potentially available to us. And again, that grant, the park grant, might be, though we have a lot of work.
I love it. Can we throw in accessibility too? Can we throw that in? You know, somebody who, yeah.
Okay, I'm lost. Take care.
What about Carla? Bye.
I'm losing my power here.
I keep saying you should pay your electric bill.
Oh, I went from my iPad to my iPhone without. Anyway,
Carla,
it's good talking to you. Have a good holiday, and that's my.
They're falling off like flies here. Paula, were you going to say something? I wasn't sure if I cut you off.
No, I had to run. My husband called me, so I didn't want to interrupt the group. Sorry.
Okay. I think that's enough for tonight. Do we have anything else you want to add? We've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, I would just make a motion to close the meeting. It was very interesting.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
All right. Take care. Have a good
Adjourn
holiday.
8:03. Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, yeah.
Bye, Diana.
Bye, Cindy.
We're the last ones. I think Paula left.
Wow. Well, these minutes are not going to be very good because I can't focus. I get interested in what people are saying, and I'll just wing it.
Send them over to me, and I'll, put my 2 cents in. All right.
Okay.
How are you?
Right.
How are you, by the way?
Oh, pretty good. Yeah. Chris was up till like 2 a.m. working on that grant last night.
Really? Well, she emailed me early on with some questions about stuff, but she is a workhorse. Let's face it. Yeah. She really is. Yeah.
Dealing with my dad, just the usual.
Really?
He'll be doing okay, and then he's not doing okay. So. But yeah, pretty well. So, and your company's still coming?
As far as we know, we're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that UMass opened up the first free testing site, but children 10 and over. So.
Yep.
That doesn't really help.
About that. There's one at HCC. It's the same thing. It's already there. So it's limitations. To be honest with you, we provided all the data we could possibly think of for Ashley, and we put it in her hands. So we don't know where that goes from there. But anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
I will talk to you. I'll talk to you soon. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.